Hello, fellow Earthlings, and welcome to Deep Dive from the Hive, where we discuss modern-day musician life, answering the call to create, and what it takes to actually produce what you believe in. With your host, Trever Yarrish, the captain of this submarine. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, so let's batten down the hatches and get to it. Let's go.
All right. Yeah. Just want to groove to that for a second. Such a good intro. I love it. That intro laid down for us by Marvelous. I love it. Welcome to the podcast today. This is Deep Dive from the Hive. If you're watching this, very excited to have you here on YouTube. If you're listening to this, well, welcome to whatever podcast streaming app you are using right now. Like us, subscribe to us, follow us, give us those 5 stars if you could. All of those things help. Comment on the podcasting app you use. All of those things they go miles to helping us get more listeners for these amazing podcasts. And today we have a very special podcast for you. I've been super excited about this one. We've got Bret Levick in-house, and Bret is a singer, guitarist, songwriter, composer, recording artist, producer, all of the things. He basically is the Renaissance man of music, I believe. And before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to Middle Rogue Audio and Joe Dinkowitz for making sure that everything we do sounds amazing. Joe's also on the switch today for the cameras, so we're stoked about that. One more shout out to Cordial Cables USA. All of the cables in our podcast studio as well as on our stage are all Cordial cables because it makes such a difference. So we're stoked to have Cordial on board as well. Now, I would love to welcome to the studio Mr. Bret Levick. Hey, Bret.
There we go.
There you go.
I'm here.
You're here.
Good to see you, Trevor.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
It's great to be here.
I've been excited. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
First. And the more research and digging into you that I did, the more of a fan and like all these questions came to mind. And your story is deep and broad, and I'd like to get into as much of that as we can today, as much as makes sense. Let's see. We're going to go deep today.
I got nowhere to go.
Deep. That's right. The sonar is a pingin'. So
Nice.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, before we dive into all the amazing stuff that you're doing these days, because you've got a ton of projects going and you're producing a ton of things. It's just incredible. I kind of wanted to go back in time a little bit and sort of hear your hero story, your, what do they call it? The founding story or the backstory, the hero story, I guess.
Who made me want to play?
Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
All right. So when I was 3, my parents moved us to Paris, France.
Okay. Because that's every kid has that.
Yeah. Just the usual stuff. And so I grew up in Paris till I finished high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you were 3 when you moved there. You finished high school.
I was like 18 when I moved to New York City.
Okay, so New York City.
And spent a couple of years there, got real messed up, and moved to LA and spent a good 20 plus years there.
In LA.
Yeah.
Okay. So so going back, what took you guys to Paris? Why Paris?
My dad was a writer.
Your dad's kind of a big deal.
He is a composer. He has a festival that does like neoclassical music, like avant-garde stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty deep stuff. Like, it's you have to listen to it. It's not background music.
Right.
And but he was a writer at the time, and so he was following in the footsteps of Hemingway and all the people who moved to Paris and hung out in cafes. And he, they were hippies. So I was raised by hippies in Paris.
What was that like? I got to hear a little bit about Paris.
It's,
Like growing up in Paris sounds, it's different.
It's weird. Like,
Especially with a writer as a dad who's following in these footsteps. Like it's a movie.
What happened is he turned into a jazz saxophone player somewhere in there.
Okay.
So I grew up around a lot of 20-year-old adults, because they were young when they had me, who were partying all the time. And, us kids were kind of running around doing what we wanted while they did what they were doing. And, it was it was a good experience. I mean, it was interesting. I learned French in like a year. By the time I was like 4 or 5, I could speak fluently like a French person.
Wow. And then, so 18 years old, you moved to New York. Was that on your own? Was that your
Yeah, I decided to move on my own. I had started playing music in Paris. It's funny, my first big gig was playing bass with a band whose lead singer was Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was my first live show in front of a lot of people, which I think is kind of hilarious.
That is true. You cross paths with a ton of people over the years. So yeah, this is so
He
wild.
grew up in Paris too.
He grew up in Paris too. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. There was a school where all the diplomats' kids went, which wasn't the school I went to, but we got connected, and they needed a bass player, and I was like, sure, if you got a bass, I'll play.
So, and what age were you at that point?
About 16.
So that's when you first started
Or 15,
playing
maybe.
music. Is that right?
I was playing guitar up to then.
Okay.
I had a couple like high school bands and
Yeah.
really bad bands.
What was the first band you were in?
The first band I was in was a cover band with a couple of guys. I don't remember what it was called. It was horrible. All I remember is we practiced at the top of these stairs that were impossible. There were these winding stairs with no railing that were impossible to bring our gear up to. And we had, acoustic guitars with these really bad pickups on them, and the strings were 100 years old because we just couldn't buy strings, and I would hate to hear what I was doing back then. But I was a huge fan. I was the only 7-year-old who could recite all the Leonard Cohen lyrics. I was a huge Leonard Cohen fan. I was a huge Beatles fan. I had a collection of vinyl that ended up with some ex-girlfriend in Paris that I really miss. But I was deep into listening to music,
Yeah. So Leonard Cohen, Beatles. What were your big influences?
Leonard Cohen, Beatles, huge David Bowie fan. And then I grew up during New Wave, so Elvis Costello, The Clash, Joe Jackson, God, who else? The Pretenders.
Mm-hmm.
That was my generation's music.
It's a great generation of music right
It
there.
really was.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the thing that caused you to decide New York was the thing? I mean, because that's a big jump.
It was kind of a thing where, so I had moved in with a girl who was a professor of Latin and Greek. She actually spoke ancient Greek. And she got a residency at Columbia. And so she was like, do you want to go to New York? So we moved to New York, and she did her thing. And we were in the Lower East Side of New York, which back then was pretty shady. Now it's ritzy, and I immediately took to the streets and did a lot of experimentation.
Busking and stuff, just
no busking, but a lot of drugs.
I got you.
And a lot of went to a lot of shows. I got to see.
What years was this?
This was in the 80s, early 80s.
Okay.
So maybe 83. 82, 83.
Okay. Yeah.
And
What was the scene like in New York at that time?
You know, they still had CBGBs, the Danceteria. There was stuff going on every night. You could go see, you could go see Iggy Pop play at a club.
Oh, geez, yeah.
It was crazy.
That's awesome.
It really was.
Yeah. So did you immediately start playing music in New York?
I did try, but I was, like I said, kind of not super focused back then.
Sure.
I was just kind of taking everything in, literally.
Yep.
But it was a really good. It was informative. I wish I had been a little more serious. I wasted some years of my life, but they weren't really wasted because they became writing material.
It was it was the '80s New York experience. You lived it.
I got to
fully.
live it exactly.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and
so how'd you end up in LA? What was that?
So there was a guy who went to college with my dad, whose name is David Milch, who was one of the writers on Hill Street Blues, or the creators of Hill Street Blues. He went on to write Deadwood later.
Oh,
and
wow.
He was really, he had a history. He used to be a junkie, and he was a success story. And kind of as a favor to my parents, he coaxed me to LA and said, I'll help you put together a career. And, I didn't realize at the time that he meant an acting career, which I had no interest in. But, I was an okay looking kid, and he figured, he'd probably put me in some of his shows as a, bit guy or whatever.
Sure.
So he got kind of sick of me after a while, but I ended up going to a music school in LA called the Grove School of Music, which was run by this guy named Dick Grove, who scored like zillions of TV shows back then. And that is where I got deep into music and put together my first like really good band that had some local success, and started taking things seriously.
So is that Gift Horse, or is that
Gift Horse was a little later. This is a band
okay.
called Cobalt Blue, which
Cobalt Blue.
Ironically, the guitar player from that band, his name's Dirk Price, and he lives here in this area. So we've gotten to play together a lot.
Oh, that's awesome.
We had an amazing band. It was like. It was probably a little too amazing for what was going on back then.
Sure.
But
what kind of music? Were you doing originals? Or
it was all originals.
Oh, wow.
And it was very like, it was kind of, I would say, a cross between it was almost like Zappa meets Bowie meets Prefab Sprout. It was like... it was pretty deep stuff. Like I've never written anything with that many chords since then.
Can you get away with writing a song these days that is a hit that has more than 4 chords?
No,
let's be real. Music's taking a big downturn, and so is the audience. The audience just doesn't have the temperament for. Like if a Beatles song came out today, it'd be like, right over the heads.
I
of most
agree.
People.
4 chords is an exaggeration, but 6, 6 chords.
Yeah.
And
pop music, it's 3, right? So
3, 4 chords.
Four
but
chords, yeah.
Honestly, that's the skill. Is can you do something that doesn't sound rehashed and use those 4 chords? And that's more of a challenge than using 12 chords. And I realized that later on, but I'm still super proud of the stuff that we did.
Any of that stuff survive?
I have it on some cassettes. I never really released it. I should release it someday.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
It was pretty cool. Like we had a show that we had an 8-piece band, I think 8 or 9. We had like 2 keyboard players and background singers and a horn player, and it was crazy. We used to open up for this band called Billy Vera and the Beaters. I don't know if you remember them.
Mm-mm.
They had a big hit what would you say? I forget what it was called, but it was huge back then. And we got really good crowds. We had one place we played at once a month, and it would be packed, you know. And I'd have, you know, semi like celebrity guys coming there, and they'd say, I remember there was a guy named J.J. Jackson who was a VJ on MTV early on, who used to come to the shows, and he came up to me one day and he goes, yeah, you write pretty deep lyrics for a 20-year-old. I was like,
that's
okay,
a compliment right there.
A compliment.
That's awesome. So were you always the front man? Were you?
Yeah, because I was a better singer than player, you know.
Okay.
I've honed my skills a little more.
And
now.
you were primarily the writer as well?
I wrote, and I didn't even play guitar in that band. I was a front man.
Gotcha.
I was a singer.
Well, you had 9 people in the band, so
they didn't need me.
You didn't need to play an instrument.
And I would now I wouldn't know what to do with my hands. Back then, I guess I was more creative with the showmanship. But now I need something in my hands.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's
It's all the time you put in with it. So okay. So that band, Blue Cobalt,
Cobalt Blue,
Cobalt Blue
fell apart, and what happened is I got married to my wife Shanti, and her brother or half brother was Barry Oakley Jr., whose dad was Barry Oakley from the Allman Brothers, and he is like the most amazing bass player I've ever played with. And so I started a band with him and this is a guy from Berlin, and a drummer. And this all came out of a residency that I got at Musicians Institute. Somebody heard me play and said, you can come here for free for a year. And it was this band thing. So this band came out of it that ended up being Gift Horse. And that was a
roller coaster right there.
That was it was a great band. We made a lot of mistakes industry wise.
Okay.
But so
like bad contracts or something, or?
Yeah. I mean, the best advice I can give anybody who's starting out music is keep doing what you do. Like, don't try to follow any trend, because music is cyclical. It always comes around. Like, if you notice, it's always like guitar music, synth music, guitar music, synth music, every decade. And a lot of people try to jump on a bandwagon, and that's a recipe for failure, because you'll always be 5 minutes behind everything. Whereas if you do what you do and what you love to do and just wait for it to come back around, you've got a shot. And our thing was kind of inspired by, in the middle of grunge, I don't know if you remember when Lenny Kravitz's first album came out.
Okay, yeah.
And he was doing like this really cool, like Beatlesy, melodic stuff, which was completely different than anything that was happening. And we just went, wow, that's our jam, So that was kind of what we decided to do, and it was fine. It didn't sound like him. It was just kind of inspired by the same era, the 60s, 70s, but updated,
Sure.
And we made this album that was that was actually funded by, I should give a shout out, by my father-in-law, who is Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night, who is a really cool guy. Let me marry his daughter, and kind of believed in me at a time where it was hard to get people to believe in me. And he was super helpful. And it's his birthday today, so
wow.
Happy birthday, Chuck.
Happy birthday, Chuck.
There you go.
Awesome.
But we went into a studio, and it was all tape, 24-track studio, and we blocked it out for a month. We just went there every day, all day for a month. And they had, I don't want to get too technical, but they had a Neve console, and they had all these cool instruments.
What years was this?
This was 1998.
Okay.
Right. so we make the CD in the summer of '98, and it was a kick-ass CD. It was the Gift Horse CD, and the first year we went out and played that CD note for note. It was like unbelievable. And then this label picked us up, and it was a small label, but they got us on commercial radio for about 3 weeks, and which was at the time not kind of unheard of for an indie band. And,
right.
We had the song Heather's Arrest that
went to number 3, right?
It went to number 3 on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And so we're driving around in this van, you know, and we're going to radio stations, and, you know, all the people are showing up. And then about 3 weeks later, Limp Bizkit hit, and nobody knew who we were anymore. You know, we'd drive to town and call the DJ, and he'd be like, Gift Horse who, you know. But we had...
That's when you changed the name to Gift Biscuit. Right?
Yeah, Gift Biscuit, exactly. So, and this is where the part about trying to, you know, just keep doing what you do comes in, is, you know, our label kind of wanted us to get more aggressive, and they wanted our same songs to be like heavier and faster. And for some reason we listened, you know, and that's when the band kind of went downhill. I mean, we were a perfect band for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And then,
just doing it all and building an audience.
Yeah, we had nice crowds up and down the coast, you know, and then we just kind of like drifted away into oblivion.
I mean, when you're in that situation and you have somebody who believes in you and picks you up, the label, which isn't real easy to do.
No.
And I'm guessing at that time there was a ton of noise in LA, right? Like, yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of bands.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, being in that position where you have something that you feel like is really great and it's resonating with people, and one of your songs goes to number 3 on the West Coast, and you're like, it's going well. It's got to be hard to say no to a label, though, right? I mean, like, what's that experience like? What did you guys think it was the right move at the time? Did it sound like
we were
maybe
young and stupid, and we were kind of like, you know, we were very idealistic, and we thought everybody knew better than us, and we didn't. I think our instincts were to just do what we did.
Yeah.
But we listened, you know, and
sure.
we started dressing differently, and, you know, because we were like jeans and t-shirt. We were ourselves, you know, we were just doing us.
Yeah.
And it was a great band when we did that. And it just kind of ruined us, you know.
And did you write all that music as well?
Yeah, that was all stuff I wrote.
Is any of that music still circulating these
days?
It's
really funny because the guy from the label a few years ago said, you know, I'm shutting down the label. I've got all your CDs. Give me your address. I'm going to send them to you. And I got a box with like, this was a few years back.
Did he release the rights to you too?
No, he still owns some of the publishing, but he sent me like 300-400 CDs. Yeah. And they were funny. Some of them had the Tower Records label on them and stuff. And they were just CDs that had come back from the record stores. And,
yeah.
And I started giving them away around here, and there's people around here who love that CD.
Rockin' Gift Horse.
Yeah.
In Southern Oregon.
Recently, I was like, why isn't this stuff on Spotify? And so I'm actually trying to get this. I'm trying to get this stuff on Spotify because I think people dig it, you know. And it turns out somehow it is on Spotify, but there's no metadata, so it doesn't have any names attached to it.
Oh, okay.
It's impossible to find. So
I'm working on that. Went out of business.
I guess. I don't even know if they put it on or if I started to put it on one day and then forgot because I'm busy. But
yeah,
hopefully that CD is going to be available.
That's awesome.
That's some of the best stuff I've ever written. You know.
Have you considered bringing some of those songs out? Like
I do.
So you play some of the songs even today?
I play a lot of the songs
today. Awesome.
Or, you know, 4, 5, 6 of those songs I play today.
Oh, awesome.
Still.
Okay, great.
Yeah, they're good songs.
Will we get to hear some of those this Friday?
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, there'll be 2 or 3 of them for sure.
Okay, and yeah, just if you're listening to this when it's released, then this Friday, the what is it, the 11th? Yeah, June 11th. We have live from the Hive. We've got Bret Levick on our stage at 8 p.m. So tune in. It's going to be amazing. If you live in the area and you might be able to get a ticket, there's a couple left. You may want to jump on that as well. So anyways, I'm super excited, and we'll get to hear some of those tunes from
It should be super fun. And I'm bringing, I have a band here called Left, and instead of a guitar player, we have a lap steel / dobro player. So we're kind of doing like Americana versions of all the tunes I've written for TV and a lot of the Gift Horse stuff. And I'm bringing my friend Bob Evanuk, who's an amazing dobro player and singer, and we're gonna rock some of the Gift Horse stuff.
Oh, it's gonna be an experience.
It's gonna be fun.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's go back. We were in '98.
Yeah.
And Gift Horse had its run. It was amazing. Had its peak, and then made some choices and was given bad advice and followed it. And then where'd we end up?
So what happened after that was the guy from the label, after we kind of broke up, was going to finance a solo album that I was going to do. And so he gave me a certain amount of cash. I don't remember how much it was. And he said, make a record. And at that point, people were starting to record their own stuff, you know.
Sure.
I made a decision to, instead of going to spend that at a studio, to buy, a Mac and an interface and some gear and try to learn how to self-produce. And I locked myself in a room for about a year, worked on 3 songs in that whole year. And that's where the career that I have now started, basically.
That was your first producing?
Yeah, the album never came out, but I learned how to produce. And that was before YouTube. Like now you can go on and anything you want to know is on YouTube.
Yeah.
Back then you're just trying shit, you know.
Yeah, you got to learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I worked for a year on 3 songs. One of them was a song called Killing Time. And they were kind of deep. They were like, I guess think Beck, you know, there's a lot going on. They were half kind of DJ, hybrid rock, DJ-ish kind of songs, pretty funky, you know.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot, you know. It was what allowed me to, live for decades after.
Okay, so you record these 3 songs. They never get released, but you pivot from that. When did you start doing? When did some of your stuff start getting picked up for things like commercials and TV shows and stuff?
That's when that happened. So what happened is
because that career took off. It seems like
that career I got in right at the right moment. They were there were not a whole lot of people who could do believable guitar music in a home studio back then, like sound like a rock band.
Okay.
And my partner from Gift Horse and I, for a while, had that market cornered. And I re-met an old friend who was working at this company called APM, which is an umbrella company for Sony and EMI and all these places all over the world that license music to TV. And he said, hey, do you want to take a crack at it? And hooked me up with some people. And me and my partner did our first, CD for licensing. And that was...
So you put together a specific CD with licensable music, and then that just goes out to different...
Yeah, that goes into a database. And a lot of the production companies and music supervisors have an account with APM where they can look for keywords and go through and find stuff. And that worked out really well. So we just started doing more and more of it. And this was right before I moved to Oregon. I moved here in 2004. We'd been doing that for like a year. And then I moved to Grants Pass because my wife's mom lived here.
Okay.
And
You had to get out of the city. You just had.
yeah, my daughter was going into first grade, and the only good school we could find was going to be like an hour and a half away, and it was just starting to look like too hard. You know?
Did you feel like at this point your career was more portable?
It was
Because you were recording in your own studio. You could do that from anywhere.
It didn't matter. Yeah,
awesome.
And I kind of didn't really have like rock star aspirations anymore by then. I was kind of over that. I just wanted to make a living doing the only thing I'm good at, you know, or know how to do. So, yeah, so we moved here, and then between like 2004 and 2008, I had two partners, my guitar player from Gift Horse, and then this other guy, and we cranked out 300 tunes in like 3-4 years.
Wow.
That went out for licensing, and we did pretty well with those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to list a couple of things here because it's pretty wild. So like, what was your first big gig, or the first big pickup, right? So I imagine that was an amazing moment.
Oh yeah, hearing yourself on TV for the first time.
Yeah.
I had oh God, I don't even remember. One of the ones I remember was I have this song "Look at You" that we still do, that wound up on a big Discovery Channel ad.
Okay.
That was running over and over. And then I had this other song called "Date with Demise" that got a Nissan commercial that did really well.
Was it a national? Or?
Yeah, national Nissan commercial. And then it was like I would get these ASCAP reports, and it would tell me like all the shows my stuff, and it was like hundreds of shows, and some of it's like reality TV. It's like you don't want to brag about it, but it still pays money.
Yep.
You know, and then there were some movies and.
But like TV, NCIS, Grey's Anatomy, Sons of Anarchy, Desperate Housewives, Boston Legal, Ugly Betty, Lucifer is a newer
recently,
one, and Shameless is a more recent.
Shameless. I had 2 songs in. The music supervisor liked my stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Sons of Anarchy.
Both of those are big shows right now. Sons of Anarchy's big. I mean, they're all. I mean,
yeah, Lucifer is the only one that I think is still going, but. Yeah, I wrote this song called "Skies Falling," which ended up on Lucifer and a few other pretty big shows right away. And it was a real big production, you know, lots of foot stomps and claps and huge group vocals.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great song. I love that. Yeah. And then movies too. I mean, obviously like that happens too, but ending up on a soundtrack for a movie is different than just a TV show spot or something, right?
I've had less of those. I had in 2015 there was a movie called The Call with Halle Berry.
Yeah.
And they used like 45 seconds of one of my songs while this person was being kidnapped in the trunk of a car, and the kidnapper turns on the radio, and this song of mine comes on. I forget what it was even called, but that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that's so wild. It's crazy.
That was cool.
Crazy experience. So again, I imagine though that when 300 cuts, that's a ton. That's a lot.
It's a nice catalog.
Release. Yeah, but even still, it's going into a catalog of thousands of songs, thousands and thousands and thousands of songs. So to have your songs picked up, nice. I mean, you're doing something special to get that many hits.
And like I said, we were kind of we were better at, I think, and you know, I'm sure some people would disagree with me and think I'm an asshole for saying this, but I think we were better at doing rock guitar music than anybody else at the time for that kind of thing.
In that world, yeah. Okay. Okay, so this career is going well, and you moved to Grants Pass.
Mm-hmm.
You're in Ashland now, though. So
Talent. Yeah.
You're in Talent. Okay, so you moved to Grants Pass, and her family was based here.
Yeah, her family was based there. We moved to a house on Candler Street, sight unseen. We just kind of found it and said, okay, we'll take it. And I move here, and I know nobody. I mean, I know my brother-in-law, Byron, and my other brother-in-law, Gustavo, and my mother-in-law, and sister-in-law, and that's about it, you know. So I had lots of time. And plus, you know, I was like, it was pretty close to after 9/11, and, you know, I kind of have dark skin, and I felt like back then Grants Pass was not quite the tolerant, you know, place that it is now. So I felt kind of like scrutinized, you know, when I was here.
Yeah.
So I stayed home and worked a lot. I worked out 20-hour days, just recording stuff, you know.
Okay.
And it was great because I got a lot done, and it paid for a house that I'm living in now, and allowed my kid to, you know, I was able to put food on the table doing what I loved, you know.
That's amazing. How long did you live here in Grants Pass?
I think we were here for, we moved out of Grants Pass in 2010. So I think we were here for like a good 4 or 5 years, maybe.
And what projects did you have going here?
None.
Okay. So you were doing your own stuff.
Yeah.
In the studio.
I had friends in Ashland who had a band called the Rogue Suspects.
Yep.
Who I would go sit in with, you know, when I wanted to play live every now and then. But other than that, and I thought at the time, I was like, I didn't really think I was going to be performing anymore. I thought, this is my gig, you know, recording stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, it turned out completely differently, but that was what I thought at the time, and I was at peace with it, you know.
Mm-hmm. So through doing the producing of your own stuff, you got to be pretty good at producing.
I did.
And at what point did you start producing for other people?
I got my first production gig. It was a guy named Kieran Devine when I moved to Ashland in 2009 or 08. And I don't know, the word got around, and so I got to produce a lot of local people. And then more recently, I was doing a lot of work. There's a producer named Sylvia Massey who has
producer.
She's an amazing producer who has a place in Ashland.
I'd love to get her on the podcast at some point.
Should.
I think she'd be a great.
She has this thing in a church, and she had an Eve console in this church in Ashland that I used to do all my drum tracks. And you know, she started sending me people that she didn't have time to produce.
Right.
So I got a lot of gigs that way, and some were just friends that word of mouth. I never advertised. I've still to this day have never looked for a producing gig in this area. They just come to me. So
yeah, you've made a name and found success in it.
Yeah, and you know, most of the stuff ends up being really good. I mean, I think everybody's pretty happy with what I'm doing for them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
I hope
it. That's why you keep getting more, right? Because the word gets out and people rave about it and refer to you. And
the first thing they say is when they call me is like, "Well, I hear you're not cheap."
That's good.
And I go, "No, I'm not. I'm not cheap. Sorry. But you know, I promise you, it'll sound like a record."
Yeah. Yeah. You want cheap?
Yeah.
You've got a computer, right?
Exactly.
There you go. Go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, so, okay, we ended up in Grants Pass.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else, any other interesting endeavors in when you were in LA, or any other crazy things going on? Because LA is a crazy place. I lived in LA for a couple of years, and my dad grew up down there. My dad actually worked at Wally Heider's recording studios for a bit.
Yeah.
And Studio C doing recording.
Nice.
He was an engineer there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty sweet. So he saw a lot of people come through there and did, recorded for like Henry Mancini and a bunch of voiceover work for like Mel Blanc and all kinds of crazy stuff. Right. Which those stories are fun. But I was doing math when you were telling your stories, and I think that the years didn't line up quite right. It was a little bit before that he was in there.
Yeah, I was mostly there in the 90s and
Yeah.
late last part of the 80s.
And we were up here at that point,
Yeah.
by that point. But anyhow, yeah. What?
Anything else in LA?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I got married and had a beautiful family, and you know, I had a lot of friends, and got sober a couple times, and kind of got my last shit together there. And
Yeah.
then didn't, and did, and got to see got to play all the, you know, the whiskeys and the Viper Rooms and the Troubadours, and so that was fun.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, LA's like anywhere else. You know, the place is as good as the friends you have there, and I had a really nice group of friends that I miss now. But no, nothing career-wise that kind of set me on that path for the TV stuff,
Yeah.
and that's what I was
Awesome.
doing.
You ever do any work with your dad?
My dad used to sit in with Cobalt Blue. We'd bring him up. Him and this guy, Lon Price, who played with Billy and the Beaters, would come up every show and do a couple songs.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've recorded vocals on some of my dad's creations.
Uh-huh.
He had a few songs that I sang on that were really cool.
That's awesome.
Very weird, like Bowie-ish stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So you're in Oregon now. You've been recording your stuff. You start picking up projects with other people.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start getting into? I mean, other than just sitting in here and there, when did you start bands again? When did that happen?
So when I first moved to Ashland, you know, I did have a network of friends, like all the Rogue Suspects guys, and that guy Dirk, who was my old friend from LA. And we started. There was a little restaurant / music venue called Tease back then, which was in Ashland. And they used to have these nights where singer-songwriters would come and play. I think there were open mic nights or whatever. And I started doing those, and my band kind of got put together through just people sitting in. And one by one, I started putting this band together, not intending to, but we ended up creating Left, which is
awesome.
an acronym for our last names. And it was just a great vehicle to do all the different songs that I've written over the years, you know.
That's great. Yeah. And we got to have you on our stage.
Yeah.
Briefly, you played a couple of songs for a fundraiser last summer.
Yeah. So I play with them. I mean, COVID kind of put the kibosh on a lot of stuff I was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I lost a lot of gigs that year, and then my friend Alice DiMaselli and I was working on her album when Tom Petty passed away. Mm-hmm. And we had both talked about how much we loved Tom Petty. And we were like, we should do a Tom Petty thing. And we put together this project called Petty Thievery that did really well, like right up until the pandemic. You know, we played to packed houses, and we started getting booked in Bend and Eugene, and had some great gigs booked when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And stuff. So.
And we got to have you guys on our stage for a few songs for that same fundraiser as Petty Thievery. So. Yeah. Man, yeah, that's
I mean, there's a guy who can use 4 chords pretty well.
Yeah, that's true. He's an incredible songwriter.
He really is.
Yeah. Okay, so Left starts up, and you start getting yourself back out there performing and realizing how much you missed it. I'm sure. And this whole time you're writing though.
I'm always writing.
You're always
new
writing
stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
You ever do much touring?
The only touring I've done is with Gift Horse.
Okay.
And it was just mainly, I mean, we did South by Southwest, North by Northwest, but mainly we were doing between Seattle and LA.
Okay.
Just up the coast.
The West Coast.
Up and down the West Coast. Yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
In a van with a bunch of guys.
It's a party. The stories.
It was crazy. I mean, you know, I was married and sober during that time, so the other guys were having all the fun, but there's stories, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been married?
I've been married 23 years.
Awesome.
24 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your kids?
One kid,
One kid.
Bowie.
Bowie.
Who lives in Portland, and she's an amazing artist. She sings like a bird. Like she doesn't write, but I've recorded songs that I wrote that we recorded together, and she plays ukulele, and she's got an amazing voice. So she's a musician she's not doesn't really play out. She's a little shy, I think. But she's been doing really well with her art. She's doing a lot of Etsy stuff and art fairs, and she's got a really distinctive, cool kind of style.
That's awesome. How old is she now?
She's 23.
23.
They are 23.
They're 23. Okay. And when they come down, to visit, do you ever play?
Yeah, we'll sit down and jam.
Gig together?
We've done a gig together. We opened for Jackie Green at the Rogue Theater once together. Me and Bowie and Bob Evanuk, actually.
Oh, okay, cool.
It was really cool. There's video out there.
Ukulele and singing and
yeah.
So awesome, yeah.
That's
cool. Rewarding, being able to play with your child.
That's
right?
amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I had done more of it. I mean, my big regret is that I didn't have Bowie sing on more of the stuff I did for TV.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, there was high school, and I was always slammed. And hopefully, maybe it'll happen, you know.
Yeah.
There's no one I'd rather work with.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. Yeah. Proud father.
Mm-hmm.
Can definitely tell. Okay, so let's see. So Left. Tell me about Left.
So Left.
What made you that project come together? Because you didn't have a band. You weren't.
Yeah. So I joke the bass player. Sorry, I'm not in the mic. The bass player, Greg Frederick. I always say it's his band, even though they're my songs, because he does all the booking and he's the one who kind of put it together.
Yeah.
But
Shout out to Greg.
Shout out to Greg.
Yeah.
So Left was me and Bob Evanuk. He's the E, and Greg Frederick is the F, and Matt Terreri is the drummer.
Okay.
So that's Left. And then we were joined by an amazing keyboard player named Don Harris later on, who's played with Levon Helm and all kinds of people. And he recently decided he doesn't want to play live anymore, but we never were able to add his name to the name because it just the H.
What's his last name? H?
Harris. You know.
Well, it could have been a silent H.
Yeah, or it was like
Left.
a lisp, left. So
I think he. Okay, so when did he play with Petty Thievery as well?
for a while he did.
Because he played here with you guys.
Did
and
he?
I think
Yeah.
that was his. He declared it as his last live
Possible.
gig.
No,
One
I
of
think
them or
it
something.
maybe.
He was talking about like retiring.
He's
being done with
doing music scores now.
Okay.
So yeah, movie scores.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been one of his last
One of his
gigs.
last- okay.
We ended up getting a guy named Mark Johnson who plays a lot as our keyboard player and it was just we wanted someone who would play the parts that were on the record, and you know, it was almost like tying one of Don's hands behind his back to ask him to do that because he's so incredible, you know, and it was just like a mutual thing. So
Yeah, sure, totally. Okay, so Left,
yeah,
and then Petty Thievery.
Yeah.
We talked about that, and Alice DiMaselli. Shout out to Alice. We had a podcast with Alice.
It's her birthday yesterday.
So many birthdays! Happy birthday, Alice! Yeah, and then she played a show here, which was
I
an
saw it.
amazing evening.
Yeah,
we were blessed that evening. So, but then, so is there any other Anxious Annie? Is that a?
So Anxious Annie was more of a recording project. I have a friend named Brent Daniels who used to live here, but he moved to New Jersey. and he does a lot of movie trailer music now. He's really good at it. He's one of the top guys. I've done some tracks with him for that stuff.
Yeah, you've done some producing for him, right?
Well, no, and for the trailer stuff, he's always in charge because that's his gig. And,
Yeah.
you know, he'll be like, I need guitars for this or whatever. But when we first met, it was like meeting a long lost brother. Like, we totally hit it off, and we were both super geeky and into gear and producing. And I had all these opportunities to do TV stuff, and we did a bunch of kind of like 9 Inch Nails-y kind of stuff, and called it Anxious Annie.
Anxious
and, and we had some good placements with that stuff.
Slightly experimental, but on the edge, metal-y almost.
Yeah, Marilyn Manson. There's a song, I don't know if you heard it online, called Love is a Crime Scene.
Yes.
That I love, that we did together. And he's awesome. A synth guy. Like he had like racks of analog synths at his studio, and I'm always impressed with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think we have a sound effect for that.
Nerd alert!
Nice.
Awesome. So, yeah, Anxious Annie, that, is that stuff on
that
Spotify?
Stuff's I think Anxious Annie's on Spotify, or maybe, I don't know if it's as Anxious Annie though.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of what we called ourselves. I don't know if the company's, let's see.
Might be listed under you, or
Love is a Crime Scene.
You play a little bit of that for us?
I can't play that stuff. It's all. Yeah. Oh, wow. There's a lot of songs called that. I don't know if that stuff is up there.
Okay.
There's stuff on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
There's a really funny scene. We wrote a song called Bang 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 that ended up on one of those MTV shows with the kids in a house or something. And they go to a shooting range, and they like synced up the song to where like every time I sang Bang Bang Bang, they're actually shooting a gun, and it's hilarious. It's like just a video clip. I know that's online.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think Love is a Crime Scene is probably online too.
So Brent Daniels,
yeah,
you guys did some work together, and then and so he's taken off doing some big stuff too.
He's in New York now.
Yeah. Another world-class great that you work with is Jeff Pivar.
Yeah, Jeff and I did. We met when he was playing with the Rogue Suspects.
Yeah,
and we hit it off, and we're bros. We're like two of the only Jews in the Rogue Valley, so we always like, do the funny Jew connection jokes. But we've done a lot of stuff together, and one of them was the song that was on Sons of Anarchy, because I got a call saying, can you do this, we need this thing really fast, and it might go on Sons of Anarchy. And so I called Jeff and I said, just come up with some like cool blues progression and play some cool stuff, and I'll add lyrics to it. And I think 30 minutes later I had his track, and an hour later I had written my lyrics and recorded them, and that was So Many Ways Back Down, which was on Sons of Anarchy, just as a duo, him just playing slide guitar and vocal.
Yeah. Wow.
And we've done a lot of stuff.
Wait, you just, again, this is the fruit though of a reputation, is that you get called up and they're like, hey, we got something for you. And then you just hit up your friend, and within a few hours you guys bust out something that's then on TV.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
We had done another project with Dirk Price, me and him, called ThreeHeaded Monster, which was really cool too. It was it was like hybrid Americana, but with loops. And there's I don't know if you probably saw that on the website. It's called ThreeHeaded Monster.
Oh yeah.
And it's all instrumental, but it's really trippy stuff.
Yeah.
So we had done that whole project together, and I've had him play on a zillion things. And, you know, I mean, he's kind of been a mentor to me guitar playing wise. You know, I've been really kind of inspired by his playing. Not that I'm ever going to be at that level, but, and, you know, I think I've helped him out with a lot of like recording techniques and stuff. So, you know, we have a good symbiotic relationship.
When did you start taking playing guitar real seriously?
Well, when I was in Gift Horse, I was playing pretty simple stuff, but I was pretty serious about it. And I could play the Gift Horse set without thinking, just, you know. When I got here and started kind of playing more of my more complicated stuff and stuff that had been on TV, I just naturally started getting, I was playing so much that I got more into playing. And then I got really into like dialing in tones and like amp sounds, and, you know, got more geeky about it when I moved to Ashland like 10 years ago.
Okay.
Or, 15 years ago. Because I was just a singer-songwriter, and, you know, my excuse was like, you know, I write songs, I don't have to play guitar great, you know, which I still don't. I'm not a great guitar player, but I can, you know, I can track a pretty good rhythm guitar part, or you know, some lead lines.
Awesome. You mentioned Sylvia Massey. So your connection there was you need to record some drum tracks at one point, and then
I mean, everybody knows each other in Ashland, and we were introduced, and she had this church with an Eve console in it, and I had nowhere else to. The only thing I can't record in my studio are drums, and that was just the perfect place. So you know, for about 5-6 years, that's where I did all my drums.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And we became friends, and I did. There's a video out. That you know, that company, I think they're called Lynda.com, or they're owned by LinkedIn.
Yeah,
they did a thing about her. I got a call from her once, and she was like, if you have a song that you can come and record today, you know, they're coming to do this thing about me, and they want to watch me produce something. And so I did this song. I called Jeff Pivar and my friend Matthew and Don Harris, and we went down there, and I had this song that I had never recorded called Bullet in the Ear, and we did a recording there, and the guys from Lynda.com were doing this big 4-camera shoot, and they made a music video out of it as a favor.
So she was doing a class for Lynda.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this was kind of the ad for the class, I think.
Yeah, Lynda.com was like the original master class.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, they started that whole platform piece, and that's awesome. That's really cool.
Ironically, so I had this video on YouTube that I thought was really cool, because it was all like, it was, you know, at the studio, and there was lots of shots of the Neve and Jeff playing and us. They just put together, it was a really cool video, and it was out there, and all of a sudden it's taken down, and they're saying like, you can't post this, it's not your property. And I'm going, what the hell? Like, it's my song, you know? So, you know,
because it was part of the class. It was part of the.
It wasn't even part of the class. It was just not my property for some reason, even though it was my song. So that got taken down, and I ended up going through this whole thing to get them to let me post it. So it is online. Yeah, if you look up Bret Levick, Bullet in the Ear, there's that video's up there. It's worth watching. It's really
produced
fun.
by the Lynda.com crew.
Yeah.
In Sylvia's studio, in the church. Yeah. Awesome. Have you guys worked on any projects together, you and Sylvia?
Sylvia was having me do some mix some bands, and then I'd send her the mixes, and she'd kind of finish them up. So we've done that kind of stuff. She's never really produced anything, but I just talked to her today, because there's this. My friend sent me a link. There's this new audio coming from Apple. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like Apple and Dolby. It's pretty incredible. It's like surround on steroids.
What?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Sorry.
It's all right.
It is called Spatial audio.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Have you heard about that?
Yeah, yeah. It's like I've it just so I have AirPod Pros,
Right.
and and it's a trip when it happens because I'll be like watching something like a show on Hulu or something like that, and somebody will say something. I'll look over and it knows the orientation of my head associated with where the sounds are. And so the sound is all over the place. And if I look this way, it pans all the audio to where the source is. And it's a trip.
It's
incredible.
Really
yeah.
I just found out about that today. My friend sent me a link, and my first thought is, okay, I got to get in on this. Otherwise I'm going to be irrelevant, in a year.
Yeah. Well, and it's a trip too, because they do have the full surround. Like if you move the source up over your head, it sounds like it's coming from above you.
Yeah.
Or behind you.
Which is why you need about 15 monitors to mix that shit.
Oh, you have to be fully...
You have monitors on the ceiling. It's like surround was nothing. You needed 5. Yeah. Now you need 15 monitors and this whole system.
So what do you guys, so you mentioned that. What's that leading to? What do you...
Well, I texted Sylvia immediately because she was on this video introducing it that I saw, and I was like, so what's the deal? Like, do you have that in your studio now? And she's like, yeah, I just spent $200,000 on it. So, but I'm thinking, okay, so you can hear it in AirPods. There must be a workaround so you can mix it in AirPods.
Oh, yeah. Like their studio edition, they have the studio edition headphones now.
They've got to have something. If you can
They're
hear
not the fidelity though.
No.
But you could at least be able to mix the spatial piece of it.
Put stuff where you want to put it.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense because that's also how the listeners are going to be able to experience it.
That's how they're not going to hear it on 15 speakers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
interesting.
This all happened this morning while I was getting ready to come here. I'm like, oh no.
My world's changing.
My world's changing again.
Yeah. That's awesome. So and again, you've worked with a lot of other talent in the area, and what I don't know, maybe this is like saying picking a favorite child or something, but are there any projects that were just like amazing experiences for you to produce as a producer?
There were some really cool projects. I mean, they're all cool in their own special way.
Yeah.
One of the early ones I did was a band called the Scions about 8 years ago, and they were all kids.
Yeah.
And they were doing
They
this.
kind of had they were going places.
Yeah, I did their first CD.
Okay.
And we had a really good time, and we became really good friends, and I had a great time. I love that CD. And that was a tough CD because they had recorded a lot of drums in their bedrooms and stuff. And, I get a lot of that, like, can you make this sound good? And I'm like, ah. But it turned out to be, a great project. And what was cool about it is I just did 16 songs for APM again during COVID. I had to write and record 16 songs. And 8 of them, I had Sean Siders from the Scions, and we also used Micah, the guitar player, and we wrote and produced those together. So I got to write with him again. He's got this project now called Moogosaurus because he's all into these Moog synths and stuff. Yeah. And so Moogosaurus. So you should check them out. It's him. It's basically him. It's really good stuff.
That's cool.
So we did this cool, like, almost like disco, indie, electronic guitar pop stuff together, 8 songs that I really like. Wow. Just recently this year. And right now I'm working with Frankie Hernandez on a gospel album.
That guy at church?
That guy from my church.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's been, I've written a lot of stuff with Frankie over the years. I was introduced to him maybe 10, 12 years ago. And we've done a lot of the stuff I did for TV together.
Yeah.
And,
he's a staple. And so, I would say 80%, 85% of the people who've sat in that chair doing podcasts on this show have played with Frankie or worked with Frankie at some point. 2 people even said it's like kind of like a rite of passage in Southern Oregon is like
That's
playing
funny.
with Frankie is, like he's just he's one of those guys, and you've kind of become you've been that guy in as well. So.
Well, we used to joke because when I left, any new musician who had moved to town, the first gig they would show up to was always a left gig, and they'd sit in, and if they were any good, they'd kind of become part of our thing, and they'd be playing immediately.
So some nights it was lefter, some nights it was left.
Leftish.
Yeah, leftish. Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, Frankie's definitely a whatever common figure around here, and but we have a great friendship, and we respect each other. I think a lot as writers. I love his writing, and I'm not a Jesus guy, but the way he writes about it is not preachy. It's basically songs about redemption, and I like it. I mean, the songs are great.
He tells his truths.
He tells his truths. He's very honest, self-deprecating at times, but the songs are always well written and well crafted. Yeah. And this is kind of a big production, we have choirs and all kinds of stuff going on.
I've heard some cuts.
Heard some of it.
Yeah. And shout out to Frankie. We had him on our stage, and he also did a podcast, and we talked about at the time he was doing his Kickstarter for the album, and it's hard though. It's hard to put an album out these days and generate energy, and
it's crazy, especially like when you're not in your 20s. I mean, I think everyone just wants to stay relevant, and you have to keep up with what's happening, but still be true to yourself, and you have to find out how to make what you do work with someone who's 20 years younger than you, and if you can do that, then you kind of don't fade away into obscurity, I guess.
So okay, it's advice time. Okay, so you gave some advice earlier, which was really great, talking about gift horse and what happened with that. And again, it might be asking an expert for amateur advice, which is tough for an expert, somebody who's been in it for so long. But what advice would you give to somebody who wanted to get into producing licensable music for, I mean, that industry's evolved a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, the first advice I'd give is don't give your music away, because that's an industry that really got saturated with not so great music after a while, because people were willing to do music for free just for the back end, for the royalties if it got picked up. And the quality really took a hit because of that. And so I'll always tell people, get paid, like don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Yeah. If you're good at what you do, you should be making money. There should be a production budget. And I mean, there's a lot of ways to shop your music around, but if you're any good, you can look up, any of the companies that are licensing stuff, and they'll listen to it and they'll pick your stuff up. So I'd say hone your craft, get really good. You want to be able to sound as good as any record you hear on Spotify, basically.
Are there any companies better than others to approach or to submit to, in your opinion?
So here's the thing with licensing. So there are companies that you can keep your publishing, and you can submit to a bunch of companies, and they'll do it for a split of what's called the sync fee, which is whatever someone pays to use the song. and you'll make more money that way. There's companies, there's publishers that I work with, like APM, which is basically an umbrella company for EMI, Sony, all these like huge companies, Universal, that will ask you for your publisher's share, but the distribution will be international. It'll be huge. It'll be heard by everyone. So
what does that mean, publisher share? Is
that okay? So in publishing, there's, if you think of it as a pie, half of it is the writer's share, half of it is the publisher's share.
I see.
And you can keep both. You have to have your own publishing company, but the publisher's share is basically your bargaining tool.
Yeah.
And that's what that's like what.
Is it half?
It's half.
Okay.
It's half
so
of a song.
half is the publishing, half is the writing.
writers. Yeah.
And then there's the performance.
Well, there's
is all bundled into the.
That's for this is for performance. This is for like what ASCAP and BMI pays you.
Yep.
Okay. Then there's a whole other thing that you're negotiating, which is the sync fee, which is what a production company will pay you to use the song.
I see.
That's completely separate. So, there's all these companies that you put your song with them, and they'll just take a piece of the sync fee if they manage to license your thing, and you can keep your publishing.
So that song, I'm just trying to understand. Like the industry is it's a crazy. It's very different than just the music industry, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole different beast. So, say that song that you did with Jeff, for Sons of Anarchy, that goes in. You give them the publishing share.
Yeah.
You have the writer's share. How does Jeff get paid?
Well, we split the writer's share.
Okay, so the writer's you wrote. Okay,
Yeah.
you split the writer's share.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And what if you had two other instruments on the cut?
So most of the time, what I'll do if they don't have anything to do with the writing, and I use a musician, I'll pay them to play on it, and they don't own any of the song.
Yep. You'll just flat rate.
They
them,
made money.
pay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But no, it's kind of the same as any. The publisher writer split is the same with records. It's the same with everything. It's just how much of your. A lot of younger artists will be like, I don't want to give anything away. I'd rather have 100% of nothing than 50% of something.
Yeah.
And so my advice is, once you find out somebody who's interested is legit, consider that. Consider that, 50% of something, it could be a lot more than what you make if you decide to keep it all.
Do you have exclusivity? Do you have contract that?
I don't. No.
So it's per track, basically per track.
Yeah, per project.
Okay.
Yeah. So a project will be exclusive, but me as a composer writer, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Do you have any manager? Any?
No.
Okay. So because you just directly connected to the publisher.
Yeah, I was lucky. I still have a friend who works at APM who, gets me some gigs and stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Awesome. I don't think anyone wants to manage me. It's not. Really, I don't think it would be that lucrative.
Unmanageable.
Unmanageable.
So okay. So what do you have going right now? What's your we're migrating our way out of COVID. We're trying.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting closer, and things are loosening up a bit, and people are feeling safer.
Mm-hmm.
You are. We're friends on social media, and I've seen your Twitter account. You're pretty outspoken, dude, when it comes to topics at hand. Some of the political stuff. Yeah. Would you consider yourself an activist? Have you done activism?
Yeah, I'm definitely an activist. I mean, as of some people are gonna hate me for this, but okay. So the first time I did anything was I canvassed in Grants Pass for Obama.
Okay. Yeah.
Door to door.
That was an interesting experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was actually easier than you would think.
Yeah.
In 2016, I started an indivisible group for this district that got really big really fast, which was just something to kind of resist the Trump agenda, which I didn't agree with, and a lot of other people didn't.
Yeah.
And we went out every Tuesday for 3 months and protested, and we turned into a nonprofit, and we started having events, and I got to meet our senators and congressmen. And, well, a lot of our thing was trying to block our congressman back then for this district.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so I would say that I'm an activist now. I slowed down a little because I just got burned out after the last election. I just had to.
Yeah, I think everyone needed to chill out a little bit after that. It's a very emotional roller coaster for everyone on all sides of the equation.
It's really terrifying, though, because we are staring down the barrel of authoritarianism, and there's people, a third of this country is willing to welcome it in because they've been misled. And I have ancestors who come from places where that kind of shit happened. Yeah. And, the signs are always the same, It always starts with someone convincing you that someone's trying to take all your stuff and your jobs, and, and pretty soon, you're doing whatever they tell you to do. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, we're not in a democracy anymore. Oops. Why are they hauling my neighbor off?
Yeah. So does this find its way into your music?
Yeah, I've written a lot of, or quite a few political songs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd say so.
Do you have some tracks you're gonna maybe play for us today?
Yeah, I hadn't planned on doing any of that stuff, but I can.
You can do whatever suits your fancy. What would you have on the? Because I'd love to hear something.
I put my capo on because I was gonna sing something a little lighter than that.
I know I got you all fired up now.
Yeah, now I'm like, I could be preaching. No,
it's your platform.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was gonna, I was driving over here thinking, what could I play? I was gonna I could give you a choice between a song about vampires, a song about somebody who robs a bank during a recession, or a love song. And I kind of decided to go for the vampire thing. I could do more if you want, but
let's start with the vampire thing. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what track is this? What's this song?
This is a song that I wrote with my friend Dirk Price. It's called Barbed Wire Heart.
Barbed Wire Heart.
Yeah.
Can we maybe move your water to this side over here?
Oh yeah, sorry.
And the beer maybe too.
Sure.
Just so we can get a better shot.
How's it? Yeah. Do you want me to? Yeah.
I think you're good. Good. Awesome.
I'll use the mic. Can you hear the guitar again? All right. So, and I have not played live in about 1.5 years, so this is going to be interesting.
We're ready.
All right. This one goes a little something like this. Take it as truth, you're not of this world. You hide in the night, you're a strange kind of girl. Your slow whiskey draw and your silvery glow shake the heavens above, fuel the flames down below. I need a barbed wire heart, a whole liquor store. I need a fat dime bag and a little bit more. I need a barbed wire heart. They won't let you in. That'll keep us apart. I need a barbed wire heart. I stood in your yard by the dead willow tree. I was waiting for you. I was looking for me. The rush of my blood as you came into sight sailed off on the wind of a dark Delta night. I need a barbed wire heart, a whole liquor store. I need a fat dime bag and a little bit more. I need a barbed wire heart that won't let you in. That'll keep us apart. I need a barbed wire heart. La 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 la. 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 Well, I'll give you this. You're hard to resist. With magnets for eyes and your toxic kiss. With what's left of my will, with my bruises and scars, I'll try to shake loose, but I won't get too far. I need a barbed wire heart, a whole liquor store. I need a fat dime bag and a little bit more. I need a barbed wire heart that won't let you in. That'll keep us apart. I need a barbed wire heart. I need a barbed wire heart, a whole liquor store. I need a fat dime bag and a little bit more. I need a barbed wire heart that won't let you in. That'll keep us apart. I need a barbed wire heart. La 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 la.
Wow.
That was barbed wire.
I love barbed wire heart. That's a, yeah. Let's cut that one out. That was
I'm
awesome.
using this weird effect thing back here that kind of messed me up. Does it sound weird?
No, it sounded
It's
great.
this thing.
That thing's awesome. What? Tell me about that
So,
thing.
I ordered it during the pandemic because I did like 14 live streams from my house when the pandemic first hit. And this is basically this thing you stick on the back of your guitar and you can put effects on it, but they come through the sound hole, which is interesting. I haven't quite mastered it yet, but
They come through the sound like it.
yeah. So like this isn't very loud right now. Here, I'll try to turn it up. This right now has a tremolo on.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right. But
Come
it's
on,
got
let's
other
strum it
stuff
again.
too.
One more time. Let's
Oh,
see.
yeah.
Let me. I gotta unmute it
Yeah.
here. Strum it again. It's got the tremolo comes out of the body of the guitar.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And then there's other effects too. There's This is a Leslie sound. I don't know what this is on. Sounds a lot similar.
Wow.
Ottawa.
Oh yeah, I hear the wah there. Yeah.
And it's got, anyway, it's kind of a weird thing, but
That's awesome. That's so cool.
I thought I'd try to use it. So
I love it.
That's one thing. And then this other thing I got during the pandemic is this tuner, which I should have done right before I played. It's called a Roadie 3, and it's it tunes your guitar for you.
Tunes okay.
Hold on, I'm just turning off the overdrive. There we go. Yeah, it's amazing. So right now, you
Nerd
set
alert!
here. I don't know if people can see, but all right. So here's me tuning my guitar now.
Boom boom. That's when it lets you know. Okay, so for those who are just listening to the podcast, he's got a contraption that he's literally holding on the tuning key, and as he strums, it's turning the key,
Yeah.
and then it vibrates when it's in perfect
Exactly.
pitch, basically.
So that's
That's amazing. Okay,
I love
gadgets. I love gadgets.
I love gadgets. I saw they target the shit out of me on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I'm
And,
sure.
it's really dangerous. Like this one guy had this ring that controls like MIDI synths, and like you can set it to these different parameters. And they show this guy like literally like conducting a MIDI orchestra, and when he puts his hand up, it swells.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's all done with hand movements.
Wow.
So I saw that the other day, and there's this MIDI mic now that converts your voice into an instrument.
Okay.
Which is really cool. I mean, like, I write a lot of songs on my voice memo app, like while I'm driving and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have a song idea, and the way I kind of do it is I'll sing the melody, and I'll kind of sing the beat, and then I'll try to sing, because I'll have a chord progression in my mind, so I'll try to sing like the bass line or something like that, and I'll get them all on a voice memo, and then I go home and try to put it together if I ever do it.
Oh wow.
This thing, you just
So
sing.
that's your writing process. You're driving in your car
Oh, that's a lot of times.
a lot of times, and it comes to mind, and now we have these
It's
things.
just
and
like
you can
how
just-
not to forget it.
So
'cause,
great.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
old. So,
human.
yeah. So,
Awesome. Okay, so we do this thing on the deep dive, and this is a lot of fun.
okay.
It is it's a special thing though. Here we go. We even have a sound
Are you
to
going to tell me
introduce
what it
this
is,
section.
or you're just
yeah.
going to do
Yeah,
it?
here we go.
Geo Metro Time Machine.
So the Geo Metro Time Machine it's a Geo Metro, and you get in this thing and you get to drive it. You have to sit in this car and drive it across the country all the way to Florida, nonstop. Okay, so you're gonna work for it. Okay, and when you get to Florida, you jump out of the car and you get to go to a show, and there's an opening act, there's a mid act, and a closing act, and you get the reason why it's called the
Geo Metro Time Machine.
is because you get to pick any bands or artists of any type from all of history at their prime, and you get to watch them, and you get to create your own show, like your opening act, your mid act, and your closing act, and you get to pick who and what, and it can be Mozart, or it could be the Beatles, or it could be anybody.
Okay.
Right? So who's your opening band?
Opening band. I'll let you two open.
Ooh, U2. Okay. All right. So if U2's opening, we're going places.
I only say that because I actually saw U2 open for the Talking Heads when I was a teenager.
Was that amazing?
It was incredible. Nobody knew what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Like no one had heard anything like it. And I've seen them several times since. But so I'm going to let them be my opening act again. But younger U2, not
Yep.
you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I got you. So then who takes the stage after U2?
After U2, I would love to put a band together. Can they be dead?
Any time in history.
Okay. So I would love to put a band together that plays, I'd like to do David Bowie, Lou Reed, and Iggy Pop
Oh,
together.
you're creating your own super band.
Doing like the Berlin Trilogy and the Transformer and the Lust for Life era.
Okay.
Together.
Wow. What does that sound like? That sounds incredible.
It sounds amazing. It's what they were doing, but and you know Adrian Blue and Robert Fripp and Brian Eno.
So this is a real thing that you're talking about. This
Well,
actually
you know,
happened?
there was
Like
a
group?
well, they did so in the late '70s. Bowie moved to Berlin,
Okay.
and I don't know how much you know about his albums, but he did Heroes, Low, and Lodger in Berlin, from Berlin, the studio called Hansa. And while he was in Berlin, he also produced 2 Iggy Pop records, I think 2, at least one, which were Lust for Life and The Idiot, which are also 2 of my favorite albums. And during that time, he also produced Lou Reed's Transformer. So I think it would be interesting. They all had, a lot of them had the same musicians on them.
Yeah.
Put them on a stage together and see what happened.
Amazing. Okay. So that's your mid band. That's your right coming on after you two.
Yeah.
So who closes this thing
So-
down? I mean, like this is like epic. I don't know where do you even go from
How do
there?
you
How do you close this thing?
I'm going to get personal on the closing thing because when I met my wife, you know, I had never really been into Three Dog Night. Like I knew the name, but I didn't know much about them. But I've seen videos and I've heard incredible stories about how amazing they were live.
Yeah.
And since it's his birthday today and he's my father-in-law, I would like to go back and see a 60s show of Three Dog Night.
Nice.
And see how badass they were, because everyone says it
Legendary.
was like legendary.
Yeah. I got goosebumps. That was you brought it home right there. Brought it home. All right. Well, this sounds like a show I'd like to go to. You two in their prime, opening up for the mega band of all time, Bowie and
Bowie, Iggy, Lou Reed, Adrian Blue, Robert Fripp, the Sales Brothers, and I forget who else was in there, but that would be good.
You got one band is a whole music festival.
Tony Visconti, I guess, was there.
And then closing with Three Dog Night.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Awesome.
Weird kind of lineup, but it would be fun.
Hey, I'd go. I'd get in that Geo-Metro time machine and take that trip with you across the country. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
You know who my first concert was, like big concert? Was Bob Marley when I was 11 years old in San Francisco. Because we moved to San Francisco for a year when I was 11.
That was your first like big
That was
live
my
concert?
first like big live concert, and then my second one was Paul McCartney and Wings Over America.
What?
Yeah.
So wait, you saw
Same year.
Marley in San Francisco.
Not knowing what reggae was even.
Oh
like
my-
I was 11, and these friends of my parents were like, "We're taking you to it's world music, whatever," and it was Bob Marley. And then
That's amazing. Do you know how many people have sat in that chair and Marley was on their list because they just he's on their list. You know?
well, it
But
should be.
you got to see him
I did. That was
as your
freaking-
first show as an 11-year-old. Okay. Oh, wow. And then McCartney with Wings.
which was
that
was inspiring too.
That's epic. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole series of pictures of me after that as a kid posing in front of this big Paul McCartney poster with a guitar, and I had long hair.
I love
I
it.
still have those in my phone.
Awesome. Well, you got another song for us today?
Oh yeah, I could do another song.
Before we jump into the
Yeah.
song, we're going to use this song to sign us out. It's been amazing. I've just loved
Super
having
fun.
you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love the stories. there's more. I know we could probably do episode 2 and get into some detail.
That might be all my stories. I'm not sure.
You did a good job today. We covered some ground. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Super excited for your show on Friday. I mean, I love you as a performer, and have grown, to really appreciate your songwriting.
Thanks,
It really is very good. And it is always fun to be watching a show and have one of your songs pop on, and I'm like it sounds familiar, and I'm like, dude, that's not, and then all of a sudden, sure enough, it was one of your songs.
It's fun for me too. My wife would call me in the living room like, come here quick, one of your things is on.
Well, I am a true Bret Levick fan.
Thanks,
so
bro.
I'm stoked. I'm very excited for Friday.
Same here.
So Friday, 8 p.m., June 11th. If you are at some point in the future after June 11th, then you can watch it on our YouTube channel. It'll be there.
Yeah, with Bob Evanuk, who's an incredible slide guitar and dobro player. So
Fantastic.
don't forget Bob.
Featuring Bob Evanuk on dobro.
Yeah.
Yes. Please like, subscribe, comment on any of the platforms you're listening or watching this. It truly does help. It helps us. I mean, when we have amazing artists like this in-house, we want to get as many ear holes and eyeballs on that content, because it should be out there. It really should be seen and heard by as many people as possible. So if you take just a moment and like this, subscribe to our channel, go over to YouTube and subscribe to that channel, and share this video out, or share the podcast, give us a 5-star rating there, leave a comment. All of that helps to that mission. So thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks for watching. Bret, thanks for coming into our studio here and telling the stories and laying down some music for us.
My pleasure, man.
It's
Thanks
great.
for having me.
Absolutely.
I just took my cape off and I have to tune up though, so it's going to be a little anticlimactic.
That's okay. That's all right.
Will you give me a second to tune?
You do your thing.
You can talk a little more.
I'll talk a little bit more. I can talk a little bit more over tuning. That's
okay. Thanks.
So again, another shout out. We'll give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Cordial Cables, Middle Rogue Audio, and our normal host for the podcast, Marv Ellis. His band Free Creatures is just blowing up right now. They're recording a new album. They're getting ready to drop their new album. I'm excited for that. And they're doing some music videos right now too. So that's why he's not here doing this interview. But to be honest, I was stoked because I wanted to do this interview. I love your story.
Thanks.
I love the history, and we went to Paris and New York and LA all in one afternoon. I mean, and then we ended up in Florida watching the mega bands. So what more could you ask for?
Not much.
Other than a tuned guitar.
Yeah. I'm going to play this one.
Can you? Yeah, you can tune a guitar, but you can't tune a fish. All right. So what do we got here to take us home,
This
Bret?
is a song called Look at You that I'm going to try to do it. It's a pretty fast rock song. I'm going to try to do that sitting down. But it's probably one of my most catchy songs. And I've played it a zillion times with Left, and people always want to do video of it. And Don Harris used to do a crazy B3 solo on this song. And every video that's out there is Don Harris's B3 solo. And that's it.
That's
so
what's
there's
out
a
there?
million of Don.
Can you move your water
one
one more time? Awesome.
So I'm going to try to do that one without the B3 solo. Check one. And it goes something like this. I like to look at you when you're looking at me. I like to look at you when you watch TV. I like to look at you 'cause it's good for my soul and you're beautiful. like to look at you when the sun shines bright. I like to look at you in the dead of night. I like to look at you 'cause it makes me feel whole and you're beautiful. Oh, upstairs, downstairs, anywhere, who cares, baby, you're beautiful. Come on inside, outside, any side is alright, you're beautiful. I like to look at you when I first get home. I like to look at you when you think you're alone. I like to look at you any chance I get, you're so beautiful. I like to look at you when you walk my way. I like to look at you when you ask me to stay. I like to look at you when the chips are down. You're so beautiful. Oh, upstairs, downstairs, anywhere, who cares, baby, you're beautiful. Come on inside, outside, any side is alright, you're beautiful. I'm dedicating this one to my wife, by the way. It's for her. Shanti. I like to look at you when I play my guitar. I like to look at you when I drive my car. But believe me, baby, I'll never drive too far. You're so beautiful. Oh, upstairs, downstairs, anywhere, who cares, baby, you're beautiful. Come on inside, outside, any side is alright, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful.